What's in the package this week? Find out next on the Retro Hunting Adventures after these words from MegaManFan.
Yo, this is MegaManFan, and you need to rock and or roll on over to Mr. MegaManFan's YouTube channel, because it's all that rush to make it happen. Peace!
Welcome back to the Retro Hunting Adventures. I'm your host, Mr. MegaManFan, and today we have 5 Game Boy Advance games that I picked up for $5. $1 a piece, minus the cost of shipping, of course, and they were sent to me media mail in a plastic baggie. I'm not complaining about the plastic bag, and I'm not even complaining about the media mail so much, although I've learned the hard way that the post office will kick things back to you if they're video games, so this seller got away with it. Cars for Game Boy Advance. Let's see what else we've got in the bag here. But Ugly Martians BKM Battles. This is a pretty good deal as far as I'm concerned, because the cheapest I can find GBA games locally is $2, so here's Harlem Globetrotters. I think $1 a piece is not bad. With shipping it was closer to $2, but still not more than I'd pay locally. Jimmy Neutron Attack of the Twinkies. I'm hoping that's how you say that. Attack of the Twinkies came out on multiple platforms. And last but not least, we have Drake and Josh. Or maybe that is last and least. Perhaps it was appropriate I pulled that one out of the bag last. But I'm going to take a moment to clean all of these games with Q-tips and some rubbing alcohol, and then I'll give you some more facts about each one of these releases. We'll start with But Ugly Martians, a game that was so far off the radar it didn't even have a Wikipedia entry, and I had to go to butuglymartians.fandom.com to look up anything about it. It came out in 2002, developed by Runecraft Limited, published by Vivendi Universal, and it is a free-flying shooter where the 3 titular But Uglies are playable. The player must find keys to unlock doors. Yes, keys open doors, while shooting at enemy robots, turrets, etc. Weapons and defense can be upgraded via power-ups. There are 20 levels spanning 7 worlds, with the boss following the end of each level. Memory erase crystals can be picked up to use against Stot Muldoon should the player encounter him. There are 3 difficulty levels: easy, medium, and hard. And apparently there is also GameCube Link functionality when the Game Boy Advance is connected to the system, and the related But Ugly Martians game for GameCube is loaded into that system. So, of the 5 games I picked up for $5, which is going to be the best and which is going to be the worst? At the start, I can tell you But Ugly Martians is not the worst. It reminds me of several different games that I've played in the past, starting with Hero, the Activision title that came out on a bunch of different platforms in the 1980s. It's that up-down, left-right exploration type of vibe, and it even has the feel that you're searching through caverns for things, which makes it very much like that, although gravity is not a factor in this one. You just seem to hang in the air at will. Your backpack or mech suit, whatever it is keeping you in place. So I can't say it compares to something like Solar Jetman or Thrust Plus, where you're constantly being dragged down. You're just floating in gravity, but there is that explorational vibe to it. There is that Solar Jetman kind of vibe to it, where you're dealing with enemies, making progression through gated off areas, collecting items. You know, I know zip about the But Ugly Martians franchise other than what this wiki has to say. I've never watched this show, and I probably have the GameCube game, but I don't even remember it. It's called Zoom or Doom from what the But Ugly Martians fandom says. But I can say for $1, this game doesn't seem so bad. I could actually spend a significant amount of time playing this, exploring these levels, shooting these enemies. The only thing that bothers me about Ugly Martians is the scrolling can be a little bit hard to take blown up on the Game Boy player. On a Game Boy Advance, it's probably not so bad, but here, when you turn around to face the other direction, there's a real whiplash effect to it it's not quite to the level of making you green at the gills, but it is a little bit hard to deal with. So the scrolling, probably my least favorite part of this game. Other than that, I can say it's a serviceable, fun title for the Game Boy Advance, one that if you could pick it up for $1 or $2, I definitely would. Next is a franchise we should all know and be pretty well familiar with, and that's Cars, the Pixar series about talking vehicles that have races and compete with each other and do all sorts of interesting things. Now, this game came out in 2006 on multiple numerous platforms, not the least of which is the Game Boy Advance here. We've also got GameCube, PS2, Xbox, Windows, Nintendo DS, PlayStation Portable, Xbox 360, and Wii. So you know that Disney and Pixar milked the hell out of this. And I can't compare the controls in the GBA version to any of those other versions right here on the spot. But I can tell you that the GBA version controls are just horrific. This is a 2-car race, and I'm not even going to be able to win it because you float on every turn, and turning is damn near impossible with the Game Boy Advance controls. I'm using the D-pad crosshairs to try to make some sense of this, but I spin out on every turn, and to make it even worse, there are a lot of hairpin turns on this track. Why this is an introductory track, I have no idea. Plus, there are obstacles in the middle of the road that if you didn't know they were coming, you'd have no way to deal with. You'd have to memorize where they are because with the screen crunch, you have very little time to prepare for their oncoming arrival. And there are the opposite of speed strips on the track. There are slow strips. So if you start to gain some momentum and hit a slow strip, you're going to fall even further behind. Maybe there's a way to drift around corners, but without an instruction manual, I didn't know what that was. Maybe it involves the shoulder buttons. Whatever it takes, I couldn't master it on a quick playthrough for this video. So I think I'm going to put Cars for GBA pretty low on the list. I'm not saying it's not a well-made game. I'm not saying it doesn't stick to the movie. I'm just saying it's not for me. Next up, one that I know almost 0 to negative infinity about, and that's Drake and Josh. So, quoting from the Wikipedia entry about it, it's based on the sitcom of the same name, developed by Artificial Mind and Movement, published by THQ for the Game Boy Advance. You control Drake and Josh using problem-solving, stealth, strategy, and action-style gameplay. Ooh, action style. I don't know if I'd say that's so much the case. There's not a lot of action to be found in this game. You wander the hallways of what appears to be a school setting based on the dialogue and the layout of the top-down view. You're picking up items as you go from room to room, and there's a mechanic of having to sneak by hallway patrols and teachers and authority figures as you go from one room to the next, looking for whatever the fuck you're looking for. I honestly was not captivated by this game. Not that I expected to be from something called Drake and Josh based on a show I've never watched. And just for the fuck of it, who even are Drake and Josh? Drake's played by somebody named Drake Bell, and Josh is played by somebody named Josh Peck. So apparently the characters in this show were named after the actors who played them. So they didn't even have to remember the name of their characters. They could just use their real names. But I imagine if I was on this show, I wouldn't want to have to remember the details of it from one episode to the next either. Because anything like this game, I don't think I'd spend much time playing it. It's like a low rent Metal Gear Solid Light with lots of sneaking around to get things, but the action? No. There's no action to be had here. Let's move on to Harlem Globetrotters World Tour for Game Boy Advance. And here's what Wikipedia has to say about this particular game. Ahem. It's a basketball video game developed by Full Fat NDSI and Zoo Digital Publishing, released on October 2nd, 2006, later on Nintendo DS March 7th, 2007. It features the Harlem Globetrotters playing against teams from around the world in 2-on-2 basketball style reminiscent of NBA Jam. Here's a telling sentence. World Tour garnered negative reviews from critics upon release, and judging by the aggregate score of 31.6%, I can see why this game was not so great to play. The controls are ridiculous. Just let's start right there. You're barely able to do anything that resembles actual NBA Jam despite it being compared to that. Your characters aren't moving fluidly. Your shot selection is hideous. It doesn't seem to let you choose where you're shooting or what arc you're shooting with. And the ability to steal is way too simplified and easy to present any challenge. Not that I would expect the Harlem Globetrotters to ever be in competitive games with anybody, because that's really not their gimmick. They're going out there to put on a showcase and have fun and entertain a crowd. But this game will not do any of those things. So we move on to Jimmy Neutron, Attack of the Twinkies, which I do have the GameCube game of. So they came out at approximately the same time. Let's see, there was also a PlayStation 2 version. The GBA version was developed by Tantalus, and the release dates are September 13th, North America, 2004, PAL territory, February 4th, 2005. The GameCube and PlayStation 2 versions, North America, September 13, 2004, PAL, February 11, 2005. So what we have here is a side-scrolling collectathon. Jimmy needs parts to build some machine. What? I'm not sure. It says the levels are designed with the same mechanics as the film. So I suppose it would probably help if I'd watched the film, then I would understand what the Twinkies are, why we have to stop them, and what we're building to stop them. I'm just going to assume it's some sort of laser or cannon or zapper that's going to take him out, because he appears to be holding a weapon on the cover, and the Twinkies, if that is them on the right, they certainly do look menacing. But in this introductory level of the game, I'm not encountering any of the titular Twinkies. I'm just going around collecting stuff, and every now and then the game interrupts to tell me how to do things like, when you see a ladder, press up. Oh, no fucking shit, Sherlock, really? Press up to climb a ladder? God, I never would have figured that out. Thank you so much. But I suppose if you're designing a game with a younger audience in mind, you want to give them some tips. But my tip would be, this is one you can probably skip. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. Thanks for watching.